Hello, everyone. I'm Dawn Duran, Acting Director of the Office of Sex Offender Sentencing, Monitoring, Apprehending, Registering, and Tracking in the Department of Justice's Office of Justice Programs. Welcome to this webinar, which will provide guidance for potential applicants of the fiscal year 2020 SORNA Training and Technical Assistance Solicitation. The Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act was enacted in 2006. Title I of that act laid out the requirements of the Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act, or SORNA. We now have 18 implemented states, 4 territories, and 135 tribes, with many of the remaining jurisdictions actively working toward implementation. As we continue to implement SORNA, we are also working to maintain SORNA requirements and best practices, as well as incorporating newer requirements, such as the 21-day international travel notification codified by International Megan's Law. This solicitation is to provide training and technical assistance to the SORNA jurisdictions, the states, eligible tribes, territories, and the District of Columbia to help them implement or maintain their SORNA programs. While we have had training and technical assistance providers focused on Indian country in the past, this solicitation is looking for applications that will broaden the approach to all jurisdictions. We expect that the successful applicant will have strong knowledge of Indian country systems, but also the ability to work with all SORNA jurisdictions. At this time, I will turn the webinar over to Kashawn Arnold, Grants Management Specialist, and Juliana Grant, Senior Policy Advisor, for specific guidance on the FY20 SORNA Training and Technical Assistance Solicitation.
This is Juliana Grant. In this webinar, we will address the requirements of the Adam Walsh Act, or AWA, particularly Title I of the Adam Walsh Act, which is the Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act, or SORNA. We will discuss eligibility to apply for the SORNA Training and Technical Assistance Grant, information about the award and its timelines, and the goals, objectives, and deliverables. We will also discuss the process of preparing an application for the grant. The SMART Office, through grants and policy work, assists jurisdictions with developing and enhancing programs designed to implement the requirements of SORNA. SORNA sets forth a comprehensive set of standards for the registration and notification of convicted sex offenders. It revised prior federal laws on sex offender registration and notification, and in doing so, closed gaps and loopholes that existed under those laws. Under SORNA, jurisdictions are required to maintain a sex offender registration and notification system that captures each registrable sex offender who resides, works, or attends school in the jurisdiction. SORNA went beyond prior federal laws by expanding the number of sex offenses that must be captured by registration jurisdictions. And perhaps most importantly, SORNA expanded the definition of jurisdiction to include federally recognized Indian tribes, of whom most elected to stand up their own registration and notification systems. In fiscal year 2020, the SMART Office is looking to expand the Training and Technical Assistance Program to provide targeted training to all SORNA jurisdictions, encourage further implementation and integration of sex offender registration and information sharing tools, and identify and help jurisdictions identify SORNA implementation needs, legislative and policy fixes to comply with SORNA, and ways to engage the community and address victim and vulnerable population issues. The goals, objectives, and deliverables of the Training and Technical Assistance Grant center around providing support, training, and technical assistance to jurisdictions, including states, eligible tribes, and the U.S. territories that are working to achieve substantial implementation of SORNA, or are maintaining and enhancing SORNA implementation and sustaining a SORNA-compliant registration and notification system.
Hello, I'm Kashawn Arnold, a Grants Management Specialist in the SMART Office, and I will be discussing the more technical aspects of this solicitation. In fiscal year 2020, the SMART Office is looking to fund one award under the SORNA Training and Technical Assistance Program of up to $500,000 for a period of up to 24 months or 2 years. The awardee will be notified not later than September 30th, 2020, and the award period of performance will begin on October 1, 2020. Please make note of the application due date of March 26, 2020 by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To be considered timely, an application must be submitted by the application deadline using grants.gov and the applicant must have received a validation message from grants.gov indicating a successful and timely submission. Now, please note that we urge applicants to submit their applications at least 72 hours prior to the application due date to allow time for the applicant to receive validation messages or rejection notifications from grants.gov and to promptly correct any problems that may have caused a rejection notification. Eligible applicants for the SORNA Training and Technical Assistance Grant include nonprofit organizations, including tribal nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, including tribal for-profit organizations, and institutions of higher education, including tribal institutions of higher education. All recipients and subrecipients, including any for-profit organization, must forego any profit or management fee. In applying for the SORNA Training and Technical Assistance Grant, you will need to develop a plan to support jurisdictions in meeting SORNA requirements and to provide guidance on how to develop and sustain sex offender registration and notification programs, and provide training and technical assistance to meet the program goals and needs of requesting jurisdictions and the SMART office. Next, we will discuss preparing an application. In the next several slides, you will be provided step-by-step guidance in the preparation of an application for this program. There are several components that make up the application, and each of these components must be fully completed for funding consideration. We will explain how each application meets basic minimum requirements that will be evaluated by peer reviewers. Please keep in mind that the proposed training and technical assistance projects and how likely they are to succeed are based on the information that you clearly and thoughtfully outline in your application. The first section of the application is the project narrative, which begins with a description of the issue. This is worth 20% of the overall score. Applicants should describe the challenges that state, tribal, and territory jurisdictions face in complying with the Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act, or SORNA, and how the challenges will be addressed by the technical assistance and training that will be funded by the grant. Applicants should describe the steps they will use to assess jurisdictions seeking training and technical assistance so that assistance is targeted to jurisdictions seeking to develop or enhance sex offender registration and notification systems. Applicants should also discuss their strategy to grow and enhance communication with jurisdictions and experts working in the SORNA field. The next section of the project narrative is the project design and implementation. This portion of the application is worth 30% of the overall score. Applicants should describe the goals of the proposed project and identify its objectives and outcomes. For goals, applicants should provide a broad statement written in general terms that conveys the project's intent to provide targeted training and technical assistance to SORNA jurisdictions. For objectives, applicants should explain how the program will accomplish its goals. The objectives should be quantifiable and describe the steps necessary to accomplish project goals. When formulating the project's goals and objectives, applicants should be cognizant of the performance measures that will be required of successful applicants. The project narrative will also include a statement about capabilities and competencies. This is worth 30% of the overall score. In this section, you must describe the management structure and staffing of the project, which includes defining roles and responsibilities of key organizational and functional components and personnel. This section should also describe the experience and capabilities of the applicant and any contractors that will be used to implement the project, and highlight any previous experience implementing projects of similar design or magnitude. In addition, position descriptions and/or resumes for key personnel and positions must be attached to your application. The next section of the project narrative is the budget detail worksheet and narrative. Items included in the budget should correspond with the proposed goals, objectives, and deliverables identified in your application packet. This is worth 10% of the overall score. Please note that there is no match requirement for the SORNA Training and Technical Assistance Program. We urge you to use the budget forms that are provided by OJP when preparing the budget detail. This will ensure that the budget aligns with OJP budget categories and that the budget costs are broken out by year. The budget narrative should thoroughly and clearly describe every category of expense listed in the budget detail worksheet. OJP expects proposed budgets to be complete, mathematically sound, and cost-effective. An applicant should demonstrate in his budget narrative how it will maximize cost-effectiveness of award funding. An indirect cost negotiation agreement must be included in your package as necessary, and the indirect rate should be current. However, in the event that an expired direct cost agreement is attached, funding that supports indirect costs will be withheld until a new signed agreement is in place. Applicants should describe how performance will be documented, monitored, and evaluated, including how the impact of the strategy implemented or enhancement will be determined. This portion is worth 5% of the overall score. Additional performance metrics that will be used to assess program effectiveness should be listed, as well as the process by which the data will be collected. OJP will require each successful applicant to submit regular performance data that demonstrate the results of the work carried out under the award. The performance data should directly relate to the goals, objectives, and deliverables identified. Other required items under this grant application will be scored with a value of up to 5%. These include items like the project abstract, the project timeline, position description and resumes, as well as any memorandums of understanding and indirect cost rate agreements. Please review OJP's guidance on subawards and procurement contracts to determine subrecipient or contractor classification. Where possible, identify the anticipated vendors and the city and state for known subawards or procurement contracts in your application. Primary recipients have additional monitoring responsibilities for subawards and procurement contracts. The legal instrument used does not determine whether it is a procurement contract or a subaward. Rather, it is the substance of the work being completed. If the subrecipient is completing or reporting on data or progress toward goals and objectives defined in the grant application, it is probably a subaward. The primary awardee must maintain documentation on how it determined whether a subrecipient is a subaward or procurement contract. When attaching the components of your application, please be sure to use the application checklist in the solicitation to make sure that you have all of the required documents. Use clear, descriptive file names for your attached documents. This is the way that our peer reviewers and federal staff will be able to locate the different sections of your application. Confirm the legal name, address, and name of the authorized representative for your agency, the DUNS number, and all of those crucial elements of your profile. This information populates the standard form 424 and must match the legal name for your agency as registered with SAM.gov. Also be sure to attach the financial capability questionnaire completed in the last 2 years, as well as disclosures of pending applications and lobbying activities. Any items not included in the application package will delay processing if awarded and may delay access to funds post-award. Include a point of contact different from the agency's authorized representative who can address any issues with the application in a timely manner. Additional attachments specific to the solicitation include the position descriptions or resumes for key personnel, a timeline with a realistic project plan for the 24-month period, and the current indirect cost rate agreement. Please note that if awarded, the programmatic and financial points of contact are required to complete DOJ grant financial management training within 120 days of the award. This training is offered online or in person at OJP in Washington, D.C. All applications must be submitted via grants.gov. Please be sure to register with grants.gov several weeks in advance of the application due date. We urge you to use the solicitation checklist to verify that you have all required elements of the application and submit your full application package 72 hours before the application due date. You can find all of the standard forms available on ojp.gov. Again, please note the application deadline of March 26, 2020 by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can search for funding opportunities at grants.gov, and the catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance or CFDA number for the solicitation is 16.750, entitled SORNA, Training and Technical Assistance Program, and the funding opportunity number is SMART-2020-1 17450.
What you will see in the next few slides are resources and tools that are available to registration jurisdictions and that will be essential to understanding and providing training and technical assistance to SORNA jurisdictions. SMART.gov is the SMART Office's official website and includes several tools to assist jurisdictions in their efforts to implement SORNA, including a checklist and the other items listed. The National Sex Offender Public Website, or nsopw.gov, is a public website that enables the public to simultaneously search all registration jurisdictions' public registry websites. The SORNA Exchange Portal is a web-based tool that the SMART Office created. The portal facilitates various communications between registration jurisdictions, most notably notifications between jurisdictions regarding sex offender relocation. The Sex Offender Registry Tool, or SORT, provides local registration agencies with their own specialized public sex offender registry websites and can function as the state-level administrative registry system. The Sex Offender Management, Assessment, and Planning Initiative, or SOMAPI, is a large-scale project designed to assess the state of research and practice in sex offender management. There are also many resources and tools that our office has designed specifically for tribal jurisdictions. The Tribe and Territory Sex Offender Registry System, or TSORS, is the tribe counterpart to SORT, functioning as the jurisdiction-level registry system. It also includes a customizable public website. The Tribal Access Program, or TAP, is a Department of Justice program that supports tribes in analyzing their needs for national crime information, and it helps to provide appropriate solutions, including a biometric, biographic computer workstation with capabilities to process finger and palm prints, taking mugshots and submitting records to national databases, and accessing CJIS systems, such as NSOR, for criminal and civil purposes. The Model Tribal Code assists tribes in developing and updating existing sex offender registration legislation to meet SORNA requirements. The Guide on SORNA Implementation in Indian Country provides registry personnel with information needed to assist in efforts towards implementing SORNA. If you have any questions, please reference the contact information in the solicitation, or for general questions, please contact the SMART Office at the information you see here. Thank you.